Is burnout real? That's a question which I get asked quite often. When I talk about burnout, I don't mean this. Instead, what I mean by burnout is when you literally burn your mind and body out through just working too hard. And it is definitely a real thing. I think the reality is that most people don't experience it. They don't hit it unless they're going through, incredible times of stress or exertion. Now, when it comes to building a business or entrepreneurship, burnout is 100% real. I know because I've been through it myself, and I've seen my business partner go through it as well. And this was back in the early days of when in order to build a business, you're either going to need time or you're going to need money. And we didn't have money to throw at the business, we only had our time. And that is when the realism of burnout hits. It's because you have to throw so much time in order to create something which will then eventually make money, because as you know, you can't just live off hopes and dreams and 10-year plans. You do need finances in order to get by in the real world. So you need to exert a lot of time in order to build and create something which will then return you money. And that is when I experienced burnout back in, I'd say, 2014. And like I've mentioned before, I was throwing a lot of hours at the business. I'd literally wake up, I'd get to the computer, and we would work and we would work and we would work and we'd get on calls and we would write and we would record and we would do everything that we needed to do. Until about, I was working till easily 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd get up at 9 the next day and do it all again. The realistic point of this is that you can't do that for a lot of days. And sorry if you can hear Skype going off in the background. Again, I would edit it out, but it adds to a realism of my day today. Skype goes off all the time. So the point is that you can't do that every day without it having an effect, and that effect is exhaustion or burnout, as we call it. And it's one of those, when people say, why did you push yourself that hard? Why did you in fact, let me put Skype on Do Not Disturb. That's going to get annoying. Why do you push yourself that hard when that's the outcome is the top level of exhaustion? And that is, it's one of those, oh my god, now this one's doing it. Sorry, I got 2 computers going here at the minute. And you're on Do Not Disturb, shut up. And so people ask, why do you do it? And the reality is that in your mind, if you're sort of impatient, like a lot of entrepreneurs are, I'm guessing you are too, you want to build it now. You need to get it done now, because you believe deep down that if you don't do it now, then the competition is going to do it and you're going to be behind, and you need to get it, you need to build it, and you need to make it as good as it can be. And these things go on in your head, and they what drive you forward. And the reality of it is if someone said to me, would you do it again? 100% I would do it again, because I look at where we're at now and it was totally worth it. But to give you an idea is, I would say, again, some days we wouldn't work weekends, some days we would, so weekends would almost help as a bit of a reset switch, a bit of a leveler to bring back a time to rest a little bit. But over time, it's like a jug that just keeps filling up of this exhaustion, where you work crazy hours. You might have a bit of a laid-back Saturday or laid-back Sunday, and it'll dip, and then Monday comes and you build it back up again, and eventually you reach the top, and this tank is full. It's a bad analogy, because technically your tank is empty, but you get what I mean. And the burnout for me was literally, I would wake up on a weekday when usually I'd be ready to go and to crack on with what I had to do, and I just physically couldn't move. Or to the point where, I mean, I was never one for setting alarms, but I would naturally wake up around 8:30, 9, and someday, and usually when burnout had hit, I wouldn't wake up until 11 or 12, and I would feel horrendous. I would feel so tired, so groggy, and that's when I knew that had hit. That level of exhaustion had hit. Everything was effort, and it was that point where, you know, I'd hit burnout a few times in the past few years, and it isn't pleasant. It isn't like everyone think, oh, you just get to, you know, chill out in bed all day, and no, it isn't. It's a mental fatigue as well as a physical fatigue, even though you don't feel like you've actually been doing any physical activities. I'm sure it is more mental than anything else, but you just feel physically tired. And yeah, burnout is real, 100%. And how do you get over it? It's one of those. We had to put so many crazy hours into the business in order to make it work, and in order to reach a deadline which we'd set for ourselves, and a deadline which we'd put out there publicly. In order to, you know, we couldn't let those people down that we'd promised to have this solution ready for. And yeah, it was 100% worth it looking back. However, for some people, they wouldn't think it was worth it because it isn't a nice thing to go through. So how do you avoid it? You avoid it by being realistic with yourself. I perhaps wasn't realistic, and when I was getting tired, I would just tell myself, oh, I can carry on, I can go a bit further, I can go a bit longer, I can go a bit harder. And I reached breaking point or burnout. And I think if you want to avoid it, you probably have to go through it at least once to realise where your limit is. And then you can, when you get to those sort of stages again, you know that it's time to back off and calm down and rest and look after yourself. Because ultimately that was the problem, is that I wasn't looking after myself, Matt wasn't looking after himself, because we were focused 110% into building the business. So again, I get asked this a lot, is burnout real? I tell you know, when I explain what burnout is for me and how me and Matt have been through it, people say, really? You know, you're not just like ill? And I'll be honest, I never had a sick day in 3.5 years, because when you work for yourself, you don't do it. You just crack it. You know what needs to be done. You don't feel sorry for yourself. And even if I had a sneeze or a cough or a cold or whatever, I'd still be here working, and I'd just plough on through. So burnout was different to that. It wasn't just an illness. You feel just exhausted and you can't physically do work. You just can't do it. So if you've been through burnout yourself, please let me know down below. I'd love to hear your experiences and how you now manage it. You know, I'm fortunate now, I've managed to build a team in the business, and I don't need to put those crazy hours in anymore, because I have the finances behind me in order to avoid it. But would I do it again? 100%, because I've seen what hard work does and what it can achieve. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope that you, part of me hopes that you do reach burnout, because it means you're really trying at something, but part of me hopes you don't, or at least you only do it once and then realise and learn to manage your life a little bit better, because that's probably the sensible thing to do. But as we know, entrepreneurs, we're not always the most sensible when it comes to looking after ourselves. We have an idea and we have to go for it. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope you found it you know, a little bit interesting and knowledge. I hope you've learned something from it. If you have, please leave me a like rating. I'd really appreciate it. And with that said, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.